Proclamation of Emilio Aguinaldo urging the Filipinos to unite and fight for the vindication of the country. Everything appears favorable for attaining independence. I have no other object in writing this except to ask you and your companions to meet at once and arrange the best way to entrap all the enemies in your town. Employing DZ, for instance, make a present of whatever you think is best to the shops successively, and then at once enter the houses and attack them, or if not this, do whatever you think is best. Show valor and resolution, brothers. The hour has arrived for the Philippines to belong to her son and not to them. Only one step and we shall reach independence. Be constant, brothers, and be united in feelings. Do not imitate those who show faces. Whatever such people do, sooner or later they will be slaves. Respect foreigners and their properties, and also enemies who surrender. I want you to know that in respect to our conduct, I have proposed to the American Admiral and other nations that we shall carry on a modern one. Even if a Spaniard surrenders, he must be pardoned and treated well, and then you will see that our reputation will be very good in the eyes of all Europe, which will declare for our independence. But if we do not conduct ourselves, those the Americans will decide to sell us or else divide up our territory as they will hold us incapable of governing our land. Therefore, my brethren, I urge that we strive to unite our efforts and let us fire our heart with the ideas of vindicating our country. Many nations are on our side. On the last day of the present month at noon, we shall be able to rise all at once, and in case our enemies are aware of it, start doing so openly. When you hear that we are bombarding any of the town of Salinas, Novaletas, Tanza, Bocoor, Las Piñas, and Paranaque, you may begin to move and follow up the enemies on his retreat. Notwithstanding, it would be better if you could come on so as not scatter the arms too much. Remember also that since the Spaniards are aware of our being here, they will order to arrest of our friends. Perhaps we shall never find an occasion so propitious as this. Therefore, we must take advantage of it. Otherwise, it would be better if be great pity if we don't. Endeavor to end the war as soon as possible. Win over the native infantry. Try to measure your deem best. God guard you many years. On May 24, 1898, Aguinaldo established his dictatorial government upon the advice of Ambrosio Riaranza Bautista, who against the establishment of the republic at the time when the Filipinos were at the with the Spaniards. Aguinaldo made it clear, however, that the dictatorial government with him as a dictator was only temporary and could not last only until he established a republic. Thereafter, Aguinaldo proclaimed the independence of the Philippines on July 12, 1898. He started laying down the foundation of the establishment of our republic. The Battle of Manila began at 9:30 in the morning of August 1898 and ended at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when the Spanish white flag was seen by General F.B. Green flying above the city walls. All hostilities stopped and the Americans jubilantly entered the gates of the city. They closed the gates immediately as soon as they were already inside and preventing the Philippines to enter the cities and participate in the jubilation. The Filipino resent these selfish gestures of Americans. That early there were already signs of friction between two races. This friction would finally result to open hostility between them. The better end. The Filipino-American War started on February 4, 1899 and ended on July 2, 1902. In this period, the Filipinos showed their strong resolve to become a totally independent country, but the path for independence was not that smooth for the Filipinos. The government of the Philippine Republic under the leadership of Aguinaldo fought hard to assert its right over the Philippines islands. Never again would they allow themselves to be a colony of other foreign power. More than 2 years, they did not surrender to the might of American. The ones thought of France and redeemers pursued them. One by one, their stronghold fell under the new enemy. On March 25, 1899, they fled from Malolos, the seat of the First Philippine Republic. A manifesto called the Filipinos to fight for their homes and countries was issued by Apolinario Mabini on April 25, 1899. He tried to work for a 3 month track with the Scotsman commissions and the revolutionary leaders, but he failed. The members of the Malolos Congress asked him to resign from the Gabinete. He resigned and was replaced by Pedro Paterno. The Paterno Gabinete decided to confer with the Americans to work out an honorable peace. Juan Luna opposed it and labeled the members of the Paterno Gabinete traitor. Surrender was not in Luna's mind. He was killed by his own countrymen, members of the Kawit Battalion in Cabanatuan on July 5, 1899. On November 13, 1899, Aguinaldo disbanded the Republic. He left Bayambang for Gandon and Cervantes to avoid being captured. During his escape, Gregorio del Pilar paved the way of his passage. Del Pilar and his men, 52 of them, were killed at Tirad Pass while defending Ilocos Sur. Aguinaldo reached Palanan, Isabela on September 6, 1899, where he established his headquarters and directed the Filipino troops. But the Philippines was designed to be placed under another foreign country. In September 1901, Aguinaldo acquired Cecilio Sigismondo, surrendered to the Americans, and turned over to them all the letters he was to deliver from the Palanan. Philippines-U.S. relations from military government to civil government. After the hostilities, both countries engaged during the Filipino-American War. The healing of wounds started with the United States replacing the military government with a civil government in the Philippines. As per the amendment done to the American Appropriations Act, the amendment known as the Spooner Amendment was through the sponsorship of the Senator John C. Spooner of Wisconsin. On July 4, 1901, 3 months after the capture of Emilio Aguinaldo, the civil government was inaugurated in Manila with William H. Taft as the civil governor. This title was changed to governor to general in 1902. The military regime those had been replaced by the civil regime. However, in the unpacified Christian areas, the military rule remained until 1902. Mindanao was under military rule until 1914. The Philippines Commission functioned as the legislative body with the commissioners as the first secretaries of departments. Comparing the status of the Filipinos under the Spanish colony regime and under the American regime, the Filipinos enjoyed for great freedom, recognition, and involvement under the latter. Under the Americans, the Filipino elite then already emerged in the archipelago, shared power with the Americans in the administration of the country. Likewise, many opportunities not open to the Filipinos under Spaniards were provided them. Education was implemented, suffrage was introducing, freedom of press was not suppressed, political parties were allowed to be organized, and a promise of independence was made. The Philippine Bills of 1902 was passed through the initiative of Governor to General Taft. These bills extend the Bills of Rights to the Filipinos with the exceptions of the rights of the trial by jury. Over the silent provisions of the statute were the appointment of two Filipino residence commissioners of Washington's establishment of the elective Philippines Assembly, which was inaugurated on October 16, 1907 with Sergio Osmeña as its first speaker. Retentions of the Philippines Commission as the upper house of the legislature with the Philippines Assembly acting as the lower house, and the conservation of the natural resources of the Philippines. A new epoch in Philippines-U.S. relations. When the Second World War broke out, the Philippines once again proved its loyalty to the United States. Inducted into the United States Armed Forces in the Far East, where 100,000 Filipino soldiers, Davao was bombed by the Japanese on December 8, 1941. This was followed by the bombing of other areas to Gigarao, Baguio, Iba, Tarlac, and Clarfield. The Japanese landed in the other areas of the country, captured Manila, and General Douglas MacArthur could not do anything but retreat to the corregidors with Presidents Manuel Luis Quezon and other officials of Philippine Commonwealth. Quezon took his second oath of office as elected President of Commonwealth under the amended 1935 Constitution in Corregidors. In his inaugural speech, he urged the Filipinos to continue their struggles at all costs. He stressed, no matter what sufferings and sacrifice this may be imposed upon us, we shall stand by the American with an undoubted spirit. For he knows that upon the outcomes of his war depend the happiness, liberty, and security not only for this generation, but for the generations yet unborn. After the Second World War, the United States granted full independence to the Philippines as provided under the Tiding-McDuffie Act. Unfortunately, President Quezon did not live to see the glorious day in the history of our country. He died in Saranac Lake, New York on August 1, 1944. The Philippines at last had taken back what was stolen from her in 1898 when the Americans, instead of leaving the Philippine shores, decided to colonize the country. So that's all, and thank you.